right, we're at 10:23 on a Thursday morning on BBC Radio Scotland. It was an image captured by newspapers around the world. You probably saw it at the weekend. In the emotional aftermath of the last match of his career, tennis legend Roger Federer reached out to hold the hand of his great rival, Rafael Nadal. In some countries where that image appeared, it would have seemed like nothing out of the ordinary. But here it is unusual to see men holding hands. So why is that? Let's talk about it with, well, first up, here's psychotherapist Graham Watts, who joins us this morning. Graham's not with us yet, actually. Let's try Dr. Harry Witchel, who's a body language expert at Brighton and Suffolk Medical School. Harry, you are there. Morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, Stephen?
I am fine this morning. Give us the world picture on hand-holding for men, Harry, and why it's maybe a less comfortable thing for us here.
I was really interested in the media comments that arose around Rafael Nadal when he was holding hands with Roger Federer, which was obviously a poignant moment for both of them. And I think the media commentary is based on body language around two different issues. One is tenderness, and the other is stigma. So how people touch each other is as important as where people touch each other. If someone touches you firmly but gently, it implies a level of tenderness. And many tough guys try to avoid being tender. When tough American football players show their affection on the field, they slap each other on the back or on the backside. That's not a slap of anger, but it's like play fighting. It's a playful slap, which tells the other man, I can rely on you. You're my loyal friend. Also, if you watch how tough guys embrace and hug one another, they bend forward at the waist so that their midriffs don't touch. And after a second, their fingers tap the other person on the back quite quickly, maybe 3 quick taps. And those taps mean this is not a romantic embrace. The taps also mean I am ready for this embrace to end as soon as you are. So if you compare that to a tender embrace, the people will have their hands flat on the other person's back in order to hold them and to reassure them. So the duration of that embrace is more ambiguous. So that leads to a deep question. Why do tough guys want to avoid holding hands so that they don't want to be seen to be tender? And that's due to stigma that was created by Hollywood. So I'm an American. It was created by Hollywood in the 1950s. So it's present in Anglophone cultures, but not so much in Mediterranean cultures. And you'll actually see men in Arabic cultures who will hold each other's hands quite comfortably. And the reason that tenderness is a problem from a Hollywood perspective is that in the old days, there was a highway to romantic attachment in which before a boy and a girl might want to kiss, they would start by walking around holding hands. So in this Hollywood trope, there is this belief that holding hands is the way forward, a highway into romantic attachment. And because tough guys don't want to be seen to be potentially romantically attached to one another, because there was this stigma against homosexuality, they might avoid that. So, and obviously this is completely ridiculous, right? Because homosexual men can be just as tough as heterosexual men. I live in Brighton, and so it's not like all the men in Brighton are wandering around holding hands like they're in some sort of Banksy image making fun of romance. What the issue is that these elements of stigma, even though we think that we've gone past this culturally in terms of the stigma for homosexuality, these elements of stigma live on in our subconscious behaviors and even in our body language. And you can even see that stigma in tough guys themselves, tough gay men.
I love the way we can blame Hollywood for this, but hang on, Harry, we shake hands, don't we? As men, we're quite comfortable having hand-to-hand contact. So it's not something about the hand that is a particularly intimate area.
Absolutely. That's why I said it started at the beginning. We talked about how it's how you hold people. So when we talk about shaking hands, if you were to hold somebody's hand while shaking and not move, that would be considered as weird, right? So what happens in a normal handshake is you grab the other person's hand firmly, not like a wet fish, firmly, and give them 3 quick shakes, and then the handshake is over. And that shake means that this is part of a standard ritualized behavior. It means this is not some sort of romantic encounter or some element where I'm trying to get closer to you.
I get it. And I guess this has become even more difficult post-pandemic as well, where everybody's just a bit more careful about hygiene. And I mean, we stopped even shaking hands for a long time during that, Harry, as well, didn't we?
Absolutely. So there was, at the very beginning of the pandemic, there was fears about fomites, those little traveling particles going from surface to surface. We now know, of course, that COVID is much more likely to be transmitted by aerosols in the air. But for a long time, we were afraid of touching surfaces, and people were doing a lot of wiping of surfaces in a worry that, I personally was washing my food from the supermarket, my fruit, which was, I think it was a bit over the top. But we're coming back to the real world now, I think.
Stay with me, Harry. I'm going to bring Graham in now. We've got the line up to him. Graham Watts, psychotherapist. Graham, morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning.
So Harry took us back there to the kind of romantic tropes of Hollywood as being an explanation as to why men are reluctant to hold hands with each other. Why do you think the image of Nadal and Federer that was in the papers seemed so surprising to people and was so commented on?
Right. Well, first, it's not just the hands. The image I found was evocative as well because they were both teared up as well. So it was big boys not only holding hands but crying, and that is something which even today, sadly, we still don't have enough of. We're not connected enough. I do some work for two different suicide charities. One of them, Chris's House, the other is called Men Matter, and they're specifically set up for men. And what men need to do there is be held sometimes, to perhaps hold somebody's hand, cry. And this is big, strong, roughy, tufty men. It's not like a kind of seen as something weak, but sadly that's still how society views it, is that somehow or another you become vulnerable and then that's it, you're weak. And weakness isn't a good trait in society. When you look at who gets the praise, it's the big, strong, successful people.
And what happened when Rafa Nadal held Roger Federer's hand? It was a moment of comfort in that charged arena there. What happens when you do that? When you reach out and hold someone's hand, Graham, what is happening in terms of the reassurance, much more than just, giving somebody a tap on the back or a hand on the shoulder?
Right. What's happening is connection. And you ever seen the Sistine Chapel painting where God in the sky is connecting with Adam and their fingers are touching?
The fingertips, yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's what's happening. We are connecting with one another and we're saying, I'm here. I'm completely here with you. And hopefully as well, if you can have eye contact, but that's not, it's just that simple touch. And I think there's also something about the hand, it's so sensitive because it's an implement of touch. We have so many receptors in the hands for picking up touch. And then we release chemicals in our body as a result of that connection. Oxytocin is one of them, which is called the love hormone. So what happens there is we feel connected, that someone else is there. And I have been with people, or the privilege to be with people who have been dying, and they don't have the energy to talk. But what you do is you sit and you hold their hand, and it can be one of the most beautiful moments that you will experience. So it is a sad thing that in our culture, because of whatever it is, I mean, illegal not that long ago to wander about holding another man's hand. So I think we're still got the hangover from Victorian Britain.
How are things changing, though, Graham? I mean, you don't have to go back that many years to a time when you would see men shaking hands, but you'd never see a man hugging another man, even when two mates met. That has changed. Whenever I meet any of my mates, I'll give them a hug these days. We are changing as a society in our attitude to body language, aren't we?
Completely. I totally agree with you, Stephen. We nowadays, what we're doing is quite... You still see guys hugging and it's a slap in the back, kind of almost a wrestling match, but it's still at least contact. And men are hugging when they meet their pals now. Holding hands, I think, and I hope, might be another stage in that. Because I've been in Middle East and in Africa where people, and in India actually, where it's just you see guys wandering along holding hands. It looks strange to me as a Westerner or a Brit, but it certainly doesn't look strange in their culture. So I think we should start maybe a wee movement, Stephen.
Maybe it all starts here. What I love, Graham, is when you see guys having a hug, but there's a quick punch to the solar plexus as well, just to keep this in perspective, Right.
Exactly.
Graham, stay there. Harry, stay there. Let's bring Taram Boyd into the conversation. Taram's a comedian. Morning, Taram.
Morning, Stephen. Hello. Hi, Harry.
How would you describe... We're trying to start the Hold Hands Club here this morning, Graham, Harry and me. Are you in?
I'm gonna be in, but it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while to get used to, Stephen. But I'm committed to it. So I just remembered as I was listening to all these kind of stories, totally forgot about it until I was on the phone here. But I remember a friend of mine was talking about he was out one night with his friend in the town, and it was the same night the Clutha tragedy that happened, and they happened to be turning the corner as they seen it, and they said that they were standing there witnessing, this unbelievable situation in front of them. They said that the only thing that one of them could think to do was to reach out and hold the other one's hand, and they said they just stood there for a couple of minutes just holding each other. And I'm thinking, is it maybe that we got all these societal stigmas and we're so used to doing things a certain way, but maybe on some deep subconscious level, sometimes you do just need that human support and contact. You just need a pal to go here.
How interesting. Let's put that to Harry, a body language expert from Brighton and Suffolk Medical School. There was a moment there, Taram talking about there, that just cut through all the norms and all the learned behaviour, and we went back to what we wanted to actually do as a person.
Absolutely. I agree entirely with you and Talam, and also with Graham. The idea is that these body language gestures, we are fundamentally embodied people. We are animals that are embodied, and our emotions do get expressed through our body. So there's this tension between what you and I might call ritualized behavior versus genuine emotional behavior. So what Graham has been pitching for is the idea that people should allow their emotions to be fully expressed, and that would include the body language that would allow for this kind of contact. And the situation that Talam has mentioned is exactly one of those things where we got past the ritual and went straight to the real emotional, the human side of our existence.
Taram, what we need is role models. And we need Ant and Dec to come onto their TV shows, holding hands when they come down the staircase. That'd be the way forward, don't you think?
I think we need to find the biggest, burliest men that we can find.
Scotland rugby team.
Yeah, we need the rugby team coming out in a big daisy chain of hand holding. 12 of them front to back. I think that would start the shake-up.
What did you think when you saw that image in the papers of Federer and Nadal sitting there holding hands like that? What did you think when you looked at it? And tears in their eyes as well, as was mentioned too. What did you think?
I think it is quite it's evocative, I think that's probably the best word for it. It's hard to look at it and no feel something. And I think so, as I think it was Graham was talking about, he's for the Middle East. A lot of my family are for Abu Dhabi. So with the first time I went to Abu Dhabi and I was kind of going up and down the street, and you would know everybody, but now and again you would see men holding hands, and it came as a bit of a shock, but there was a kind of underlying friendship in it. But I think the image, it's a lot more than friendship. It's like two souls in distress supporting each other, and I think that's more beautiful than maybe the rituals of what we're kind of used to commonly doing. I think it's good that it's out and about.
Yeah, what a really interesting conversation to have. Thank you so much for joining it this morning. That's Taram Boyd there, comedian. We heard from Graham Watts, psychotherapist, and Dr. Harry Witchel, body language expert at Brighton and Suffolk Medical School as well. Your views on that and everything else you hear in the programme. It is 80295 to get in touch with us. Right now we're at 10:37 on a Thursday morning. Back to the music.